Hey guys, I just wanted to do a quick video sort of clarifying a point that most people probably who watch my content are probably already aware of, but I wanted to put it out there and be pretty explicit with my sort of opinions on this. I have a much different opinion over the situation in this country, in the United States, and a lot of what's going on in other Western countries as well, right? Versus the military forces or personnel that serve that country. But in particular, talking about the United States. I have a great deal of respect for the military personnel of my country because I recognize that even in a society that is in a state of decay or that is abusing the rights of its people, you still need a military to protect the good people that are basically left, right? The loved ones that you have, the groups of people that you associate with. You need a military to essentially protect you from being conquered by another outside force that will very quickly, enslave you or at the very least take all of your rights away. And I want to make it clear that I draw a pretty definitive line between having respect for those that serve in the military with the sort of overall situation, the overall trajectory in this country. I love what this country used to be, aside from certain things that, were not positive, that were bad, like, slavery and segregation and all this stuff that people like to talk about and say that you need to feel guilty for this because of what happened generations ago and that kind of stuff, right? I'm not saying that this country's origins were perfect or that we did everything right, but I do value Western values, right? I value most of the things that the United States was founded on: small government, constitutional rights, the ability to make your own choices but take responsibility for and own the choices that you make as an individual, right? The ability to sort of choose the path that you want in life within reason, while at the same time, putting the work into it if you want to make that path in life work for you. Those kinds of things are no longer valued in this country. For the most part, they're not. You have people that are in pretty severe denial about that as well. You have your people that think, well, no matter what happens, the United States is the best country in the world, and we do all this stuff that's right, basically, and we are essentially still the land of the free and all this kind of stuff that's just not really true anymore. And so a lot of the content that I make on this channel is pretty negative in terms of my assessment of what's happening in the United States and in the Western world in general. But I want to make it clear that that doesn't mean that I don't respect military service people, right? The people that defend the country. Because again, without them, that would mean that we're going to immediately be conquered, and all the people that I love and care about are actually going to be enslaved or have no rights whatsoever, even though in many ways we're heading in that direction more slowly, although you could argue about the pace picking up here more recently. But, I love what this country stood for in the past, and I respect what the military service members do for my country, but I do not love what this country has become. And that may piss people off, me even saying that, but I do not love this country anymore. I love what it used to be, aside from, certain things that were bad, but I love the ideas that this country was founded on. And I respect, like I say, the military personnel that protect my country and protect the people that are good people that are still left in my country. But I no longer respect the policies of this country as a whole. I no longer I don't love the United States for what it's become. I don't. I love what it used to be in many ways, but what it's become now is a travesty and sort of a cheap facsimile of what it used to be. And I draw a pretty distinct line between respecting military personnel and respecting what this country is now, which, I don't have much respect for that. People may be pissed off with that, but that's kind of the whole point, right? You do have some service members, right? You have some people in the military, some veterans, a fairly large percentage, but also a fairly large percentage of the civilian population. So it's not really just a military thing. That do have this blindly patriotic, we love the United States, we're the best country in the world no matter what we do to the people, even while people's rights are being infringed upon on a daily basis, right? And those people, not because they're in the military, not because they're serving in the military, but because of their stance on that issue, because of their ideology, in other words, they're part of the problem, right? They become useful idiots once that line is crossed. And I do recognize that, unfortunately, a lot of what the military is basically made to do now is for the interests of the elites. So you have that kind of thing going on as well. But that's not, in my view, the fault or the responsibility of the individual personnel, the individual service members. So I just want to make that clear that I do respect those that serve this country in the military, because I know in my future content and content that I've already made up to this point as well, of course, that I pretty much say that I don't love this country anymore. I want to make it clear that that's not the same, for me at least, as saying that I don't respect those that serve in the military. But again, for me, the line is drawn with people, regardless of whether they're in the military or whether they've never served or whether they're veterans. I draw the line with people that say, I love this country no matter what it does, and this is such a great country, and we're the freest nation in the world, and all these stupid lines that no longer are relevant and no longer accurate today, given everything that's going on, and really haven't been accurate for a long time, right? That's totally different. It kind of goes back to the Vietnam era, where you had a lot of service members that came home and were treated like shit, especially by leftists at that time, go figure, where they blamed the citizens blamed the military for the choices of the elites. And I try very hard not to make that mistake, because they're not the ones calling the shots. And without them, you'd have no defense at all for the people that are left that are good people, right? The people that you love and care about. And so I do try to avoid that sort of thing by not holding individual military personnel or units or whatever to be responsible for what the elites largely are doing with the military, because they do pretty much have control of the policies of this country, unfortunately, including foreign policy, domestic policy, and so on. So I do love what this country used to represent in many ways, even though there were things that you could talk about that were really bad, certain particular things like slavery and whatnot. But I do love the underlying foundations of this country, and I do appreciate those that serve this country. But I do not respect what this country has become. I no longer love this country. And, if that pisses people off, like I say, that's on them. But this is the kind of video I feel like I've been thinking about making this, because I feel like the line has to be drawn, where this is not anything that I say that's negative about what this country has become. It's not meant to be a negative reflection on those that serve in the military for this country, but it is an overall sort of negative diagnosis or negative opinion, I guess, on what this country has become and the trajectory we're headed down, and a lot of the policies that clearly violate the Constitution, but no one says, there's not any organized effort to stop it, for the most part at least. Some of the just bullshit that's going on in this country is just not acceptable, and frankly, it's corrupted this country to the point where, I don't really care about the United States as it is now. I truly don't. I care about those that serve in the military because they protect the good people who are left. And that's the kind of line that I draw. And I want to make that clear so that it doesn't sound like I'm against those that serve in this country, or those that are part of the military. I am against what this country has become in the bigger picture, and I don't lay that on the hands of individual service members. But again, to me, that's the distinction to be made. Other people may have different opinions, of course, but I respect veterans and I respect those that serve in the military. But in terms of loving what this country has become and respecting what it's become today, I have no delusions and no, sort of patriotism as far as that goes. That's where I tend to draw that line in the sand. This country itself is not really worth loving anymore, even though I do appreciate what the military does to protect me and my loved ones.